Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, it's going to be more of a short little video on how to sew on your crochet covers for your Crocs. This is a very highly requested video over on my Instagram, on my reels. Everyone is asking me, how do you get these patches onto the Crocs? And I will show you. I do not glue the patches on just for durability when I'm making my orders. But this right here is just sewn together with a mattress stitch. If you do not know how to do a mattress stitch, I'll link that in the description box below for you. Also, I will link the pattern down below as well as my strawberry pattern, my strawberry covered pattern. But I'm not going to ramble too much in this video. I'm just going to go right into how to attach these patches onto your Crocs. And I also just want to jump on here and say real fast, this is for if you have already made the pattern and you've already blocked your patches onto your Crocs, meaning you have pinned these on here and stretched them out to where you need them to be, and you're just going to go ahead and do the final step on attaching them to the Crocs. I do not have a YouTube tutorial on how to make these patches. Again, I saw the pattern just because it did take me a long time to write this pattern. Okay, so the materials you'll be using to sew your crochet patches onto your Crocs are a pair of scissors, a tapestry needle. Right here I'm using, and I recommend using a 26 or a 28 gauge tapestry needle just so it's easier to pop through the rubber and you don't have to do too much work and your fingers won't hurt that bad. I usually use black yarn, but I ran out, so really any yarn works. You won't really be able to see the yarn color that you're using since we're sewing it on so tightly. So I'm fine with using red, but if you want to use black, you can. I'm using the Lion brand Bonbon. I will link it in the description box below. I'm not 100% sure if this is cotton or acrylic. I just picked it up at my local Joann's, but that's what I'm using. I have used 100% acrylic yarn and it works the same. It's just a little bit tougher to get through the hole just because it's a little bit thicker. Also, I have here a cloth or I'm using a pillowcase just because it's what I have on hand and it's usually what I use. This is for when you pop your needle through, and if your fingers start to hurt a little bit, I recommend using this. I use this all the time just because I sew so many batches at a time. So if your fingers hurt, I would definitely recommend using a cloth or some type of a barrier to help your fingers. It won't take too long. This takes about probably 20 minutes to do. So let's jump right into it. I went ahead and turned on my little ring light so it's easier for you guys to see. So you want to go ahead and thread your yarn onto your tapestry needle. It is very hard for me to do because I have nails on, but now we're just going to go ahead and take our patch, hold it right where you want it. So right here, I'm good. Usually I'll pin this corner down, but for the sake of this video, I'm not going to pin it down because I don't want to be showing that type of stuff on my video because I'm not sure how it will affect anything. So I'm going to go ahead and hold it down like this. And usually I take this corner and match it up with this corner. As you can see, I've already made some holes here to show you guys how I did it. I do recommend using the same color as your croc, but again, I'm just using this because this is what I have on hand. I will go in and redo it in black once I get my black yarn, but just so you guys can see better, I'll do it in red. So you want to start from behind here. So you want to go in and poke through a corner area here. It doesn't really matter. You just want to stay in between this dotted line and this dotted line. So all of your sewing is going to go right above this dotted line. And sometimes I'll bring it up above this dotted line, but I'll majority of the time just stay in the middle of this line. Again, you have your cloth for if it hurts your fingers. I've already used this for when I pre-made the little holes to start. So I'm going to go ahead and pop that through, and I'm going to push right through the patch there like this, and I'm going to pull that needle through. Sometimes it's slippery because I have sweaty hands. Okay, so once you've pulled that through and you left a good amount of a tail, because we are going to be sewing this tail so that it doesn't come out at the end. So once you've done that, you're going to go ahead and go back down into your croc, popping it right about half an inch next to it and pop it right through. I hope this is making sense for you guys. It's not that complicated. It's really just, if you know how to sew, it's just popping up, popping back down, popping up, popping back down. When I go from underneath, I go in wider stretches. I don't really do inches up, each inch apart, just because I like to get through the whole entire croc. You won't really see it if you keep your longer stretches underneath and then your smaller ones when you go back down into the croc next to each other, about a ½ inch apart. I'll show you how to do that. It may sound complicated, but once you've pulled back down into it, you should have your 2 strands here. And what I like to do is just tie them off into a double knot. So I'll go ahead and tie that knot down first, and then tie another knot, and then I'll loop it back again just for a double knot to secure that on there. And then we're just not going to worry about this tail, because again, we're going to sew it back up into the croc. So now we can start sewing the trim all the way around until we get back to this corner, and then we will secure our ends and finish. So from here, you're going to go ahead and, like I said, underneath I make long gaps, and when I'm going above, I make shorter gaps. So for example, since I'm going back up, I'm going to make a longer gap at the bottom because no one's going to see the inside of the croc. So meaning, you see how we have a short gap right there? That's a little gap from the top. I'm going to go and make a big stretch and go all the way over here and pop through to the outside of my croc, making sure I'm popping through and I'm staying right above this dotted line. So I want it a little bit closer to the dot. There we go. So I pop that through, and I pop it through the patch also, and pull that needle up. And then now, since I'm working back down, I will be working right next to it so that it's not shown, and keeping, again, my longer stretches in the inside of the croc like this, because if this was in black, this would not be showing at all. So now I'm going to go about a ½ inch next to it and pop back down, making sure to stay above the dotted line. And I'm going to pull through, and I'm going to pull a little bit tight so that you don't see my stitch. So once I've pulled tight, again, I'm going to go ahead and pop, since we just came out of here, I'm going to go ahead and make a long stretch underneath and pop it out over here. Just because I don't want to spend too long on making this, on sewing these patches onto your croc. So again, I popped it through right there. I'm going to make sure my patch is caught onto that. Pop the needle through. And then I'm going to go down about ½ inch there and pop back down. Making sure that when you're going along, you're dragging the yarn down to above the dotted line. And this will make more sense once we start sewing down this side, because you will have to pull it tight to make sure you're going to that dotted line. But on this side where we start, it doesn't really matter as much, but you do want to make sure you're still staying above this dotted line. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that yarn down and push that through and pull out my needle. Pull that tight. And then again, I'm going to make a long stretch underneath here, and I'm going to go about right there. So I'm going to go ahead and find where I want to pop through. I'll go there and then bring down my patch and pop it through. Again, ½ inch to 1 inch here. Since this is the same color as my yarn a little bit, I will give it a bigger space. Pull that through. And then now I'm going to pop out right here. Okay? And once you start working more towards the top of the shoe, it will get a little bit difficult if you're working on a smaller size, but it's not undoable. I've done it with a size up to a size 5, And it took me a little while, but it's not something you can't do. So again, I popped my needle through there, pulling it out. And then I'm going to go ahead and pop it back down using my cloth here. So I pulled that through. And then now I'm gonna go ahead and see how this needs to line up with this right here. I'm gonna go ahead and stretch it because acrylic yarn is stretchy. You can stretch it as far as you need to. I'm gonna pop through right here and then I'm gonna pop through there. So I'm not gonna make too much of a big gap between my underneath rows this time, my underneath stitches this time. I'm gonna keep it close around here so that everything lines up correctly, and then I'll go ahead and do the long ones again on the side. But I will be walking you through it, so no worries. I'm going to go ahead and stick my hand in there and pop my needle through about here. So again, this may be tough just because it is the toe part. Oops, see, that's not where I want it to be. There we go. So I'm gonna pop that through, hook on my patch, make sure it's hooked on correctly. Push that through. And then we're gonna go ahead and pull this down. And I'm going to grab this like this and pull that down and pop through. Use my cloth because I am a sensitive girly. And I'm gonna go ahead and push that down again and grip onto my needle from the inside and pull through like that. Again, if you're using black yarn, this would not show, but I'm using red and that's still okay. This is handmade, so I feel like it's acceptable if you're using a different color yarn. So now I'm gonna go ahead and pop through where the toe is. So I'm gonna go right in again and make sure I stay above the dotted line. And we're just gonna go ahead and, oops. I'm gonna use my cloth for this because I don't wanna prick my finger this hard. So we're gonna go ahead and pop through, see right there. This is right above the dotted line and I'm okay with that. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull over my patch, unfold it, and oops, and put that through like this. So now that I've gripped that on there, I'm gonna go ahead and pull through, take out my cloth. And then this is where we're gonna have to start tugging down to secure right above the dotted line. And it's gonna make for a flatter finish like this, okay? So now that we're on the toe part, you're gonna go ahead and pull tight. And I'm gonna go ahead and drag here. And I'm gonna pull this down about an inch next to it, but make sure I'm staying above the dotted line. And I'm gonna go ahead and pop through using my cloth to pop through. And then I'm gonna go in and grab the needle, push down like that. Oops. And pull through. Pull tight, but not too tight. You don't wanna rip your yarn. And then I'm gonna pop down this section right next to where we just stitched, just to make sure this pink and rainbow section meet this top of the dotted line, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and pop my needle through right where the top of that toe is. That's fine right there. And bring down that patch. Pull through. And then now you pull tight, and then I'm gonna go ahead and bring an inch down and bring it down towards the line, the dotted line, and pop through again. And that's really just how it's done all the way around. And now that we're getting back to the other side here, we're gonna make longer stretches, but we're gonna make sure we're pulling that yarn patch, those patches down to the dotted line. It will be a little bit tough, but it can be done. Again, I like to push on my patch like this to spread the patch around. Oops. Push down to spread the patch around. So now I'm gonna go in and pop out here to the patch like that. and then continue all the way down here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and finish sewing on this side, and then I will show you how to sew this corner straight into this triangle corner here, and then how to hide your ends and finish off. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and speed through sewing on this side. And I'm starting from the inside. I'm going to make a long stretch to this corner, so I'm going to go ahead and pop through anywhere in this corner. Really, I'm just going to pop through there, and I'm going to hook on my patch. You will have to stretch this out a bit into this hook area. I'm going to hook it on there and pop it through. Pull my needle through. I'm going to use my cloth here. Pull my needle through. And then I'm going to go right back down, pulling this, pulling this patch right back where I want it to be, so right there. I'm going to pop that through, pull the needle, and pull that where I want it to go. Again, if you're using black yarn, this wouldn't be showing. So now that you reached your end and you have your tail end and this end, you can either sew along this trim here to secure the top, but this isn't really going anywhere once you sew the trim on because it's so tight. I like to just stop here, go ahead and turn my croc in. And this long stretch that we did to reach this corner, I like to go down, put my needle down behind it, make a little knot, and then I'll pop my needle right back up into the croc like that, into a random spot there, and then weave that in. So I will go underneath the patch and push the needle through, pop up through a random spot like this, and pull that through. Take my scissors and fasten it off and pull so you can't really see. So that is what it looks like. And now I'm going to go ahead and go here. Again, if you are working with black yarn, this wouldn't be showing. Thread my yarn onto this tapestry needle. And I'm just going to do the same exact thing. Pop it right back up into the croc, into a random spot, pull that through, and then weave in underneath the patches. So I'm going to go ahead and go right through here and push it through and come out through a random spot. So for me, that's right here. Pull that through, pull the yarn through, take off the needle, and cut off your excess yarn. Sometimes I like to take the needle and just push the yarn in underneath the patch like this. And then I will wiggle it around just to make sure everything looks the way I like. And that is all on this tutorial on how to sew on your crochet covers to your crocs. If you have any more questions, leave them in the comments down below and I will try my best to answer them. But for now, that's all I have for today. If you like videos like these, go ahead and subscribe to my channel to see future content. Like and share with a friend. It would really help my channel. But until next time, bye guys.